Welcome everyone to Frem English Podcast, the podcast where we help you improve your English in a natural, powerful, and meaningful way. I'm truly excited to start this episode because today we're bringing something special for learners who want to grow fast and speak confidently in real life.
Yes, welcome to all our amazing listeners. We created Frema English Podcast because we know how challenging it can be to learn English alone, especially when you don't have people around you to practice with. This podcast gives you real conversations, real emotion, and real English that you can use immediately.
Exactly. And before we begin, we want to remind you to subscribe, like, comment, and share this podcast with anyone who wants to improve their English, because your support helps us reach more learners and create even more valuable content.
And trust me, today's episode will give you everything you need: long conversations, real expressions, emotional storytelling, and natural dialogue that feels alive. So make sure you stay with us until the end, because the deeper the conversation goes, the more you will learn.
I've been looking forward to today's conversation because life has been moving so quickly lately that I feel like I barely have time to breathe, and I really wanted a moment to slow down and talk honestly about what's been happening inside my mind.
I completely understand. And honestly, I've been feeling the same overwhelming pace. Like every day is full, but somehow not fulfilling. And I've been wishing for a moment just like this to reflect and understand myself better.
You know, the strange thing is that even when I try to rest, my thoughts keep running, especially about my future, my goals, and whether I'm becoming the person I want to be or just following a routine without thinking.
That's such a relatable feeling, because lately I've been questioning whether I'm truly living my life or simply letting the days pass by, repeating the same patterns without making real progress toward the dreams I once cared about.
Sometimes I worry that I'm expecting too much from myself, but at the same time, I know deep down that I want more growth, more clarity, more purpose, and it feels like I'm standing at a crossroad trying to choose a direction.
And maybe that feeling isn't something to fear, that's something to listen to, because wanting more means your heart is awake, and it's telling you that you're ready for change, even if you don't know where to start yet.
That's such a comforting way to see it, and maybe that's why I've been thinking about taking a short trip somewhere peaceful, somewhere quiet, where I can step back from everything and actually hear my own thoughts.
A trip like that sounds wonderful, and honestly, I've been craving the same escape. Somewhere with soft air, maybe near a lake or a forest, where the world slows down enough for us to notice how we're truly feeling.
Exactly, a place where the pressure disappears and silence becomes a healing space, because I feel like I've been carrying so many small worries that I never take the time to release.
And I think when we're in a calm environment, the emotions we've been ignoring finally come to the surface, giving us a chance to understand ourselves with honesty, instead of rushing past our real needs.
I've missed having these deeper conversations where we don't pretend everything is fine, but instead talk openly about what scares us, inspires us, and pushes us forward.
Me too. Because life often encourages us to smile and keep going, but it rarely gives us space to explore our fears or hopes. And talking like this makes me feel grounded and understood.
It's amazing how just sharing a moment like this can lighten the weight on my shoulders. It makes me realize how much I've been holding inside without saying anything.
And sometimes we don't even realize how heavy our thoughts have become until we finally speak them out loud. And suddenly everything feels lighter and clearer.
That's why I think traveling together, even for a weekend, could help both of us reconnect with the parts of ourselves we've ignored because of stress, responsibilities, and endless routines.
I agree completely. And I think being in a peaceful place would help us not only relax, but also rediscover our dreams, the ones we set aside while trying to keep up with life's demands.
You know, one dream I've been thinking about a lot is improving myself emotionally, becoming calmer, more patient, more confident, because I've realized that inner growth is the foundation for everything else I want.
That's beautiful, and I think emotional growth is something many people forget about, yet it affects everything. Our relationships, our choices, even the way we see ourselves when we're alone.
Sometimes I wonder if I've been too focused on achieving things and not focused enough on actually feeling happy or present, and maybe that's why I feel this emptiness even though I'm always busy.
I think a lot of people experience that. The feeling of doing so much but feeling so little. And it usually means your soul is asking for something deeper, something more meaningful.
Maybe that's why I've been thinking about simplifying my life, reducing unnecessary stress, and focusing on what truly matters instead of always trying to meet expectations.
That sounds like a powerful step, because sometimes growth isn't about adding more to your life, but removing the things that drain your energy and steal your peace.
And speaking of peace, I've noticed that the moments I feel most alive are the moments when I'm connecting with people honestly, without pressure, without pretending, just real emotions and real conversations.
One feel the same way. Genuine conversations are rare but deeply healing. And every time we talk like this, I feel more present, more myself, like I'm remembering who I am beneath all the noise.
It's surprising how sharing thoughts like this can create a sense of connection stronger than anything else, almost like two people walking together toward clarity.
Yes, because when two people understand each other's inner world, it forms a bond that goes beyond everyday conversation. It becomes something meaningful, something human.
And maybe that's why I've been thinking so much about relationships, not romantic ones necessarily, but the relationships we build with ourselves and others, and how they shape our entire lives.
Relationships truly are mirrors. They show us who we are, what we fear, what we desire, and sometimes they reveal things we couldn't see alone.
I've realized that one reason I feel stressed is because I rarely express my feelings openly, and they build up until I feel overwhelmed without understanding why. That's why this conversation feels so important. It's like a reminder that communication isn't just talking, it's allowing yourself to be seen.
And being seen is one of the most powerful experiences we can have, because it makes us feel valued, understood, and connected in a world that can often feel isolating.
I think that's another reason I want to take that trip, not just to relax, but to reconnect with myself and with you in a space where we can slow down and breathe.
A slow place, a quiet place, somewhere with long paths and soft sunsets, where conversations stretch naturally, and time doesn't feel like an enemy but a friend.
When you describe it like that, I can almost imagine the air, the calm water, the sound of leaves moving gently in the wind, like nature telling us to let go.
And maybe that's what we need, to let go of stress, let go of expectations, and give ourselves permission to be human. Imperfect, growing and learning.
You know, talking about learning, I've been wanting to read more books recently, especially ones about self-development, because I feel like they could help me understand my emotions better.
Books like that can be life-changing because they don't just give information. They give perspective, helping us see ourselves from angles we never considered.
I think part of growing is learning to slow down and observe our thoughts instead of letting them control us, and books often help with that.
They do. But conversations help even more, because when you speak your thoughts out loud, they become clearer. And when someone listens with genuine care, healing happens naturally.
That's exactly how I feel right now, like talking to you is helping me understand what's been happening inside me more than I ever could alone.
And I feel the same way, because this conversation is reminding me that connection is one of the deepest human needs, something that can't be replaced by routine or success.
I guess this is why I treasure these moments with you, because you listen not just to my words, but to the meaning behind them, and that makes everything feel easier to carry.
And you make it easy for me to open up too, because you speak with sincerity, and sincerity creates safety, which is the foundation of every honest conversation.
I'm starting to realize that maybe what we both need isn't more productivity or more achievements, but more meaningful moments like this, where we can reconnect with what truly matters.
Yes, because when the heart feels understood, everything else becomes clearer. The dreams, the fears, the choices, and suddenly life feels less like a burden and more like a journey.
You know, the more we talk about all of this, the more I feel like this conversation is opening a door inside me that I didn't even realize had been closed for such a long time, a door to understanding myself beyond my daily routines and responsibilities.
I feel the same shift happening inside me, like I'm slowly waking up from a long period of emotional sleep, and suddenly everything looks a little clearer, a little softer, as if my heart is finally catching up with my thoughts.
It's incredible how just giving ourselves time and space to speak honestly creates this sense of emotional clarity, something that feels almost rare in a world that constantly demands noise and speed.
Yes, because we spend so much energy trying to appear strong and composed that we forget strength also includes vulnerability, openness, and the courage to admit when we feel lost or tired.
And I think that's why this upcoming trip could mean more than just a getaway. It could be the space where we finally learn to rest not only our bodies, but also our minds and our emotional selves.
A place where the pressure melts away and we can breathe fully again, where we can listen to the silence around us and find answers that the noise kept hiding.
I imagine waking up early in the morning there, looking out at the calm scenery, and feeling something inside me settle, like a sense of peace I've been chasing without knowing how to find.
And I imagine the two of us having slow, warm conversations over breakfast, with sunlight gently touching the table, talking about life with no rush, no deadlines, just honesty and presence. You know, I've always admired how easily you speak about your emotions. It makes me feel safe to explore my own thoughts, even the ones I usually keep hidden because I'm afraid of sounding weak or uncertain. And I've always admired how open-minded you are, always listening with genuine attention, making it easy for me to express myself without fear of judgment, which is something truly rare and precious.
Hearing that means more to me than you realize, because growing up I was always taught to keep my feelings inside, so learning to express them now feels like an emotional journey in itself.
And the beautiful thing is that you're allowing yourself to evolve, to break old habits, and to step into a version of yourself that feels more authentic and free. And I'm grateful to witness that growth.
I think having someone who understands makes the journey less lonely, because trying to figure out life alone can feel overwhelming, like walking through a fog without knowing where the path leads.
And that's why connection is so powerful. Because when two people walk through the fog together, the uncertainty feels less frightening, and the journey becomes something shared instead of endured.
Do you ever wonder how different life would feel if we all allowed ourselves to slow down more often and just have conversations like this, without rushing, without pretending?
All the time, because I truly believe most people are carrying silent battles they never speak about, and a simple, honest conversation could help them feel less alone, more understood, and more human.
Maybe that's the lesson we're learning right now, that we shouldn't wait until life becomes overwhelming to open up. That communication should be a daily practice, not a last resort.
Exactly. Because communication builds bridges, brings clarity, and creates emotional safety. And when we practice it regularly, life feels more manageable and relationships become stronger.
I think one of my biggest fears has always been disappointing the people around me, so I work harder and push myself constantly, even when I'm exhausted, trying to live up to expectations no one asked me to meet.
That's such a heavy burden to carry, and I wish you could see what I see. Someone who already does more than enough. Someone who deserves rest, compassion, and the freedom to make mistakes without guilt.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm allowed to slow down or if slowing down means I'm falling behind, even though deep inside I know that rest is part of growth, not the opposite of it.
And I want you to remember that slowing down doesn't mean failing. It means choosing to take care of yourself, choosing balance, choosing to be present. And that's one of the most mature things a person can do.
You have no idea how much your words help me breathe easier. It's like every sentence you say gently takes away a little bit of the pressure I put on myself.
And your honesty encourages me too, because hearing you open up reminds me that vulnerability isn't a weakness, but a bridge between hearts, something that creates deeper human connection.
Do you ever feel like we're living in a world where everyone is overwhelmed but pretending to be fine, and sometimes it feels like we're all wearing masks to hide how tired we really are?
Yes, I feel that all the time. And I think that pretending drains us even more, because it takes energy to hide our emotions, while showing them brings relief and authenticity.
I think I'm finally starting to understand that being honest about my struggles doesn't make me weak, it makes me real, and maybe real is exactly what I need to be right now.
Being real is the first step toward healing, and I'm proud of you for embracing that, because true strength comes from acknowledging your feelings, not ignoring them.
Sometimes I feel like I've been living in a constant state of motion, always moving, always doing, without giving myself permission to pause and reflect on whether I'm actually heading in the right direction.
And reflection is so important because without it, we risk living a life that isn't truly ours but shaped by other people's expectations. And only by pausing can we understand what our heart truly wants.
That's why I think this trip will be more meaningful than we imagine, not just a break, but a chance to reset, to breathe, and to reconnect with ourselves in a way we haven't done in a long time.
I agree completely. And I can already imagine the peaceful mornings, the quiet afternoons, and the deep evening talks where we finally understand what direction our lives should take next.
And maybe, during that time, we'll discover dreams we forgot we had, dreams that were pushed aside by responsibilities and routines, waiting patiently to be remembered.
And once we remember those dreams, we can start walking toward them with renewed energy, because clarity has a way of bringing motivation back into our lives.
You know, I've always believed that life has a gentle way of guiding us back to ourselves when we feel lost, and maybe this moment is one of those quiet nudges pushing us toward the right path.
I believe that too. I think life brings the right conversations, the right people, and the right moments exactly when we need them most, even when we don't realize why at first.
Talking to you makes everything feel more manageable, more understandable. It's like your words help me organize my emotions in ways I've never been able to do alone.
And talking to you helps me slow down and reflect on things I usually ignore, because your presence has a calming effect that makes even difficult feelings easier to explore.
I'm grateful for that, and I think gratitude is something I want to practice more often because it shifts my perspective from stress to appreciation, from frustration to understanding.
Gratitude truly changes everything, because it reminds us that even in difficult times, there are still moments of beauty, kindness, and connection that make life worthwhile.
Sometimes I forget to appreciate the simple things, a warm conversation, a peaceful moment, a deep breath, even though those small things often hold the most meaning.
And those simple things become even more powerful when we notice them intentionally, because awareness turns ordinary moments into something special and emotionally rich.
I feel like this conversation is teaching me that I don't need all the answers right now. I just need to be present, to listen, and to allow myself to grow at my own natural pace.
Exactly. Growth doesn't need to be forced. It happens naturally when we create space for it. And conversations like this are the soil where emotional understanding begins to bloom.
It's interesting how opening up unlocks more parts of ourselves, almost like every honest sentence reveals another room inside our mind that we didn't know existed.
And exploring those rooms together makes the journey feel less intimidating, because discovery feels safer when someone walks with you and understands what you're going through.
I'm starting to feel hopeful again, like maybe life isn't as complicated as I made it in my head, and maybe things are slowly aligning in ways I couldn't see before.
Hope is powerful, and I'm glad you're feeling it again, because hope is the light that guides us through uncertainty, reminding us that new beginnings are always possible.
And maybe this conversation is the beginning of one of those new chapters, the chapter where we're more open, more aware, and more connected with ourselves and each other.
I believe it is, because the moment we allow ourselves to speak honestly, the heart begins to heal, and from that healing, a new story starts to unfold gently and beautifully.
You know, the more we talk, the more I realize how much I needed this connection, because for so long I've been trying to handle everything on my own, thinking I shouldn't bother anyone with my thoughts, when in reality sharing them makes the weight feel lighter and more manageable.
And I'm glad you're allowing yourself to share, because emotional isolation can feel like a heavy wall around the heart. But conversations like this gently open small windows that let in the light we didn't know we were missing.
It's surprising how much inner noise disappears when someone truly listens, and I think that's why my mind feels clearer now, almost like your presence creates a calm space inside me that I didn't know how to create alone.
That's the beauty of connection. It doesn't erase our problems, but it reminds us that we don't have to face them alone. And that reminder gives us strength we often forget we have. That's the beauty of connection. It doesn't erase our problems, but it reminds us that we don't have to face them alone. And that reminder gives us strength we often forget we have.
I feel like this conversation is guiding me toward parts of myself I've ignored, parts that were quietly waiting for me to pay attention, and now that I'm acknowledging them, I feel more whole, more human.
And I think this honesty is helping both of us grow. Because when two people open up without fear, their words become mirrors, showing each person something true about themselves.
I've been thinking a lot about happiness lately, not the big, dramatic kind, but the gentle kind that comes from knowing yourself and accepting your journey, even when it's messy or uncertain.
That kind of happiness is the most meaningful, because it doesn't depend on perfection or success. It comes from self-awareness, gratitude, and the courage to live authentically.
It's strange how I used to chase happiness like it was something outside of me, something I had to earn or achieve, when maybe all along it was something I needed to create within myself.
And now you're doing exactly that, creating happiness from the inside out, by facing your emotions, understanding your needs, and giving yourself permission to grow naturally, without pressure.
Talking to you gives me a sense of emotional freedom, like I can express my confusion, my hopes, my doubts, and still feel accepted and understood without needing to hide anything.
And that's what makes this conversation so meaningful, because acceptance creates emotional safety. And emotional safety is what allows people to unfold their true selves.
I think for a long time I misunderstood what strength really means. I thought strength was being silent, being tough, never asking for help, but now I see that strength is being real, being open, being willing to learn.
That realization is powerful, because true strength isn't about hiding weakness. It's about embracing your humanity and understanding that vulnerability is a form of courage, not a flaw.
Sometimes I wish I had learned these things earlier in life, but maybe the timing is perfect, because growth often arrives only when we're finally ready to receive it.
Yes, growth comes exactly when it should. Not too early, not too late. And the fact that you're understanding these things now means you're entering a new, more conscious chapter of your life.
And I hope this new chapter will be filled with balance, purpose, and clarity, because for too long I've been moving without direction, and now I want to walk intentionally towards something meaningful.
And you will, because intention shapes reality. And the moment you decide to walk with purpose, everything around you slowly begins to shift in alignment with that decision.
You know, something else I've realized is that I've been so focused on reaching big milestones that I forgot the importance of slowing down to appreciate small moments like this one, moments that actually nourish the soul.
And those small moments often carry the deepest emotional value, because they're genuine, unplanned, and rooted in presence rather than achievement. And they're the moments we remember most.
I think what I want now is a life that feels honest, not perfect, not impressive to others, just honest, peaceful, and aligned with who I truly am inside.
And that kind of life begins with conversations like this, where you explore your truth, understand your desires, and give yourself permission to choose what feels right, instead of what looks right.
It's amazing how simply voicing these thoughts makes me feel more confident about my future, like I'm finally stepping into a version of myself I'd been avoiding out of fear.
That confidence comes from clarity, and clarity comes from honesty. So the fact that you're willing to look inward means you're transforming in ways you might not even see yet.
Do you ever feel like life gives us certain people at the exact moment we need them? Almost like the universe knows when our hearts require a gentle push or a guiding voice.
Yes, I feel that deeply. And I think some connections arrive not by chance but by alignment when two journeys intersect at the perfect moment to help each person grow.
Being able to talk to you like this makes me realize how important genuine human connection is, because without it, life feels like a long series of tasks instead of an emotional journey.
Connection adds meaning to everything, even the difficult parts, because when someone understands us, the pain becomes bearable, the joys become brighter, and the future feels less uncertain.
You know, earlier you said something about rediscovering dreams, and it made me think I used to have so many ideas and goals that excited me, but somewhere along the way I buried them under responsibilities.
And maybe now is the perfect time to dig those dreams up again, dust them off, and look at them with fresh eyes. Because dreams don't disappear. They wait patiently for us to return to them.
One dream I always had was to live a life where I felt emotionally balanced, where I didn't wake up stressed or fall asleep overwhelmed, but instead felt connected to my purpose each day.
And that dream is completely achievable, especially now that you're developing self-awareness, because purpose grows naturally when we start listening to our inner world instead of ignoring it.
I'm beginning to understand that emotional balance isn't something you find, it's something you build, piece by piece, conversation by conversation, moment by moment.
Exactly. Emotional balance is a lifelong practice, built from self-reflection, honest communication, healthy boundaries, and the courage to take care of yourself, even when life becomes demanding.
And maybe the most important part of that practice is learning to be gentle with yourself, because I've been far too hard on myself for far too long without realizing how damaging that is.
Self-kindness is transformative, because when you treat yourself with compassion, you begin healing the parts of you that were hurt by unrealistic expectations or constant self-criticism.
You know, hearing you talk about compassion reminds me how much I've neglected my own emotional needs, always trying to be strong for others, while forgetting that I deserve support too.
And you absolutely do deserve support. Everyone does. Because humans aren't meant to carry everything alone. We're meant to share, to connect, and to grow together.
It's comforting to realize that I don't need to have everything figured out, that it's okay to be uncertain, to be learning, to be evolving, as long as I keep moving forward.
Uncertainty is not a failure. It's a natural part of growth, and accepting it allows us to embrace new possibilities with an open heart instead of resisting change out of fear.
I feel like this conversation is helping me release a lot of emotional tension that's been building up, like finally exhaling after holding my breath for too long.
And that release is so important, because emotional tension is invisible but heavy, and letting it go creates space for peace, clarity, and new perspectives.
Do you ever feel like we're having the kind of conversation people wish they could have but rarely do, the kind that heals, that strengthens, that makes you feel understood down to your core?
Yes. And it reminds me how deeply humans crave emotional connection. Not surface-level talk, but honest, vulnerable dialogue that lets them show who they really are.
I think the world would feel kinder if more people talked like this, with patience, with empathy, with the intention to understand instead of the desire to respond quickly.
I completely agree, because empathy can soften even the hardest hearts. And when we listen with compassion, we create safe spaces for others to express their truth.
And maybe that's what I want to build more of in my life, safe spaces, where conversations aren't rushed, where feelings aren't dismissed, where people can just be themselves without fear. You know, for the first time in a while, I feel genuinely hopeful about the future, not because everything is perfect, but because I finally understand myself a little better.
And that self-understanding is the beginning of everything meaningful. Because once you know your heart, you can finally walk toward a life that feels true, fulfilling and authentically yours.
Before we continue, I just want to remind our amazing listeners that if these conversations are helping you reflect, grow, or feel more connected to your English learning journey, please subscribe, like, comment, and share this podcast, because your support motivates us to create even more meaningful episodes like this one.
Yes, your engagement truly means the world to us. And every subscribe or comment tells us that these deep, human conversations are reaching people who need them. And that inspires us to keep exploring topics that help you grow not only in English, but also emotionally and mentally.
You know, thinking about the future feels different now. It feels softer, more open, because instead of fearing what's ahead, I'm beginning to trust that I will learn, adapt, and find my way no matter what comes.
And that shift in perspective is so beautiful, because trusting your own journey brings a kind of peace that no external achievement can provide. A quiet confidence that grows from within.
I think the biggest change happening inside me is this new understanding that I don't need to rush anymore, that life isn't a race, and that moving slowly doesn't mean falling behind, it means being present.
Exactly. Because presence allows us to experience life fully, to notice the beauty in small details, and to appreciate moments we would otherwise overlook in our hurry to reach the next milestone.
It feels like the world teaches us to always look ahead, but conversations like this remind me to look around, to appreciate where I am, and to be grateful for the growth that's already happening. I'm realizing now that the real journey is internal, the journey of understanding who we are, what we feel, and what we truly want, without letting fear control our choices.
And that inner journey is the most important one we'll ever take. Because once we understand ourselves, everything else, relationships, goals, dreams, starts to align naturally.
Also, before I forget again, I want to remind our listeners that if this conversation is helping your English listening skills, your emotional awareness, or simply bringing you comfort, please subscribe, like, and share this episode, because these small actions help us reach more learners worldwide.
Yes, and we genuinely read every comment you write. And hearing your stories about how this podcast supports your English journey warms our hearts and makes every recording session more meaningful.
You know, one thing I've been learning is that fear often shows up when we are close to something important, almost like a final challenge before a breakthrough.
That's so true. Because fear isn't always a warning. Sometimes it's a sign that you're stepping outside your comfort zone, moving towards something that could change your life for the better.
I think that's why I've been feeling this mix of excitement and nervousness. It means I'm finally facing things I used to avoid, and that's how real transformation begins.
Transformation is rarely comfortable, but it's always meaningful. And the fact that you're embracing both the fear and the growth shows how strong and self-aware you've become.
And even though it feels challenging, I'm grateful for it, because discomfort often reveals the areas where we need to evolve, and I'm ready to face those areas instead of ignoring them.
And facing them with honesty and openness will lead you to a version of yourself that feels more grounded, more peaceful, and more aligned with the life you want to live.
Do you ever feel like emotional growth is similar to learning a new language, slow at first, confusing at times, but incredibly rewarding once things begin to make sense?
Absolutely. Because both require patience, practice, and compassion for yourself. And both bring immense joy when you notice little improvements that show how far you've come.
Speaking of learning, I want to encourage our listeners again to subscribe, like, comment, and share this podcast, especially if our conversations are helping you practice English in a way that feels natural, emotional, and deeply connected to real-life expression.
Yes, and remember that every time you comment, you're practicing English, expressing your feelings, and joining a community of learners who support each other on this journey. So don't be shy. We love hearing from you.
I'm starting to feel like the more I speak honestly, the lighter I become, almost like I'm releasing emotional weight that I've been carrying for years without realizing how heavy it really was.
And releasing that weight is a powerful step toward emotional freedom, because you're finally allowing yourself to feel instead of suppressing everything inside.
It's amazing how healing a real conversation can be, not a quick chat, not small talk, but a deep conversation where two people truly listen and respond with care.
Those are the conversations that change us, that open new doors in our minds, and that remind us of the emotional richness we're capable of experiencing.
And I think the reason this conversation feels so meaningful is because it's honest in a way that most conversations in daily life aren't, And honesty creates emotional openings we didn't know we needed.
Honesty is the root of all genuine connection. And once two people decide to speak truthfully, emotional walls begin to fall naturally, revealing who they truly are.
I feel like I'm finally stepping into my true self, not the version shaped by pressure or fear, but the version shaped by awareness, compassion, and authenticity.
That's the most beautiful transformation a person can experience. Becoming who they really are, not who they were expected to be.
And to our listeners, if this journey of honesty, reflection, and English learning is resonating with you, please support the podcast by subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing, because your support allows us to continue creating these deep, meaningful episodes.
Yes, we are truly grateful for every one of you. And your engagement helps us grow this community of learners who value not only language development, but also emotional understanding and human connection.
You know, I used to believe that emotional strength meant being silent and unaffected, but now I see that true emotional strength is the ability to face your feelings and still move forward with courage.
Exactly. Because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to walk through fear with an open heart, trusting that what comes next will help you grow.
I feel like this entire conversation has been preparing me for a more intentional life, one where I don't simply react, but instead choose my actions with clarity and purpose.
And that intention will guide you toward a future that feels genuine and emotionally aligned, instead of shaped by pressure or expectation.
Sometimes I wonder how different the world would feel if more people took the time to reflect deeply and speak honestly like this. Maybe we'd all feel a little less alone.
I believe we would. Because honest conversations create understanding, and understanding creates connection, and connection is what makes life meaningful.
It's strange. I started this podcast feeling overwhelmed and uncertain, but now I feel grounded, calm, and hopeful. Almost like the act of sharing has transformed something inside me.
That's the magic of reflection and connection. They bring clarity where there was confusion, and peace where there was tension. And witnessing your transformation has been incredibly inspiring.
And once again, dear listeners, if this conversation is helping you the way it's helping us, please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share, because every action you take helps spread learning and emotional healing to others who might need it.
Yes. Your support allows us to continue creating deep dialogues like this. And we truly appreciate each of you who takes a moment to connect with us through your feedback and engagement.
I'm grateful we had this conversation today, because it reminded me that life isn't just about surviving, it's about understanding, connecting, and growing in ways that make the journey meaningful.
And I'm grateful too, because these moments of emotional honesty remind me how beautiful the human experience can be when we allow ourselves to be fully present and open-hearted.
I think the next steps in my life will be guided not by pressure, but by clarity, by the understanding I gained here, and by the knowledge that emotional growth is a lifelong journey worth taking.
And I hope you continue walking that journey with patience and self-compassion, because those qualities will help you build a life that feels peaceful, purposeful, and emotionally rich.
And before we close, I want to send one final reminder to our listeners. If this episode touched your heart or helped your English learning, please subscribe, like, comment, and share, because your support keeps this community alive and growing.
Yes, and we truly can't wait to hear your thoughts, your experiences, and your reflections in the comments, because every voice in this community matters.
Thank you for walking through this emotional journey with us today. I hope you carry some of this clarity and connection with you as you move through your own life.
And remember, no matter where you are in your English journey or your personal journey, you are growing, learning, and becoming. And we are honored to be part of that beautiful process with you.